Good morning. This is Alana Mueller. I'm the president of Kauffman FastTrac, and I welcome you to the second in our author series. It's my sincere pleasure to welcome my very dear friend and colleague, Dr. Munro Richardson, today. He will be speaking to us about his book, What's in Your Cupboard. Munro Richardson is the Vice President of Education at the Kauffman Foundation. In this capacity, he oversees all of the Foundation's work related to K-12 education. Munro has been at Kauffman for 9.5 years and has worked on a variety of projects and initiatives over this time. He's overseen the startup of several important efforts, most recently a new charter school that the Foundation started here in our hometown of Kansas City. Munro earned his undergraduate degree from the University of Kansas, 2 master's degrees at Harvard and Oxford universities, and a PhD from the University of Illinois. Munro knows what it's like to start a company, having been involved in 2 startups himself. Whether he's working with school children or entrepreneurs, he's intensely interested in understanding how to help people succeed. He spent a good part of the last year doing a deep dive into trying to understand how successful entrepreneurs see the world, and the result is the book that he's here to talk with us about today. Please join me in welcoming Munro Richardson to the Kauffman FastTrac Author Series.
Well, thanks for having me today. I'm delighted to be here. So I wrote a book about meaning and purpose based on what I learned about what makes successful entrepreneurs tick. The goal was to help other people learn how to think and act like entrepreneurs. But I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk today to actual entrepreneurs and people who support entrepreneurs to share some of what I learned. If you read a story about a successful entrepreneur, 9 times out of 10, you're reading about someone who is passionate about what they do and has a strong sense of direction in their life. In other words, they seem to have figured out the answer to one of the most important but vexing questions in adult life. What do I want to be when I grow up? The comedian Paula Poundstone once quipped that adults are always asking kids what they want to be when they grow up because they're looking for ideas. I'm sure we all know someone who would love for nothing more than to find the answer to this question. They're looking for a greater sense of meaning and purpose in their lives. I suggest that there is one group of people that on average is more successful in finding the answer to this question: entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs make meaning through the companies that they start and grow. In fact, I think this is the special sauce of entrepreneurs. They make meaning through the companies that they start. I didn't just make this up. Guy Kawasaki, the former chief evangelist at Apple and an entrepreneur and venture capitalist, knows as much about practical entrepreneurship as anyone. He says successful entrepreneurs make meaning through the companies that they start. This means making the world a better place, increasing the quality of life, righting a terrible wrong, preventing the end of something good. This is exactly what Jack Dorsey and Jim McKelvey did when they started their online credit card company, Square. McKelvey, who's an engineer and is also a glass artist, once lost a $2,000 sale because he couldn't accept a credit card. Dorsey and McKelvey wanted to create an easier way for people to accept credit cards. They are reaching down to the little guys and gals who don't have merchant accounts and otherwise couldn't afford the cost to accept credit cards for their products and services. They believe the credit card industry is not set up to work well for the little guy and are trying to right what they believe to be a terrible wrong. Now, the use of the word make is intentional. Entrepreneurs don't find meaning. They don't discover it under a rock. Entrepreneurs make meaning through taking active measures to start a company that solves a problem or addresses a need that they care about. Although Square is an internet-based company, making meaning has nothing to do with the size of your company or the industry that you're in. A friend of mine who has a small cupcake business in Iowa last year asked me whether she was an entrepreneur. I told her that she is. She's pursuing an opportunity, investing time, money, and effort with no guarantee of reward. By providing cupcakes for birthday parties, weddings, and baby showers, she's making meaning for herself and her customers. Now, I've seen many definitions of entrepreneurship over my nearly 10 years at the Kauffman Foundation. My favorite comes from Howard Stevenson at the Harvard Business School. Professor Stevenson defines entrepreneurship as the pursuit of opportunity even beyond the resources you currently control. There are 3 important parts to this view of what it means to be an entrepreneur. First, the pursuit of opportunity. There are no guarantees, and there's the chance of both failure and success. Second, it requires resources. These are things you need and can use to start up and grow your business. This is more than just money. It also includes key materials, a physical location, and expertise. Third, It involves control. Some of what you need is directly within your grasp. Other resources are outside of your grasp. Both kinds are important. And it's dynamic. It requires you to rethink the notion of control. If you don't currently control something you need, this doesn't mean you should give up. You have to be relentlessly resourceful and figure out how to get access to the resources you need to make your company work. So Professor Stevenson offers a resource-based view of the world of the entrepreneur. She is pursuing opportunity under some risk with chances of failure and success. She uses resources to make this happen and is not limited in her thinking and action about whether she directly controls these resources or not. But what are these resources and how do you use them? I found the beginning of an answer to this question in a paper by a business school professor from the University of Virginia. In 2001, Saras Sarasvathy wrote a paper called What Makes Entrepreneurs Entrepreneurial? Professor Sarasvathy was trying to understand what made successful entrepreneurs tick and developed a whole new theory to understand how entrepreneurs act in the real world. For years, many people believed that successful entrepreneurs were better at what's called opportunity recognition. The idea is that somehow these people are able to see opportunities that other people do not. Professor Sarasvathy found something different in her research. It's not that successful entrepreneurs are better at spotting opportunities. It's that they are better at systematically evaluating how to use the resources within and around them in pursuit of entrepreneurial opportunities. Successful entrepreneurs ask themselves three questions. Given who I am and who I may or not want to be, what kind of entrepreneur can I become? Given the circumstances I find myself in, what kinds of entrepreneurial activities can I engage in? And finally, what kinds of companies can I start and grow? Professor Sarasvathy uses the analogy of cooking to illustrate this idea. Imagine a chef going into a strange kitchen. He's unfamiliar with the layout of the kitchen. He doesn't know what tools or equipment is available. He rummages through the cupboards looking for ingredients to use. He uses the ingredients that he finds to make a delicious meal. This is what it means to be an entrepreneur. Each of us has the resources to make meaning through starting a company, but there is no menu to tell us what it looks like, much less a recipe that tells us how to combine the ingredients. We have to learn how to cook like an improvisational chef, and sometimes we may have to borrow a cup of sugar from our neighbor. After all, this is what it means to be an entrepreneur, to pursue opportunities even beyond the resources you currently control. My aim with this book is to make it easier by helping you to understand what ingredients you have and how to look at them in a different way. So I build upon Professor Sarasvathy's analogy of the improvisational chef and look through the best work about and by entrepreneurs to identify what's in the cupboard of successful entrepreneurs. What I found were 4 staples and 7 essential spices that I believe are available to everyone. In the rest of this talk, I'm going to walk through these staples and spices and then wrap up with how I think you can use what's in your cupboard to increase your chances of being a successful entrepreneur. The first staple is who you are. What are your passions and interests? Passions define who we are. They are what we think about when we're in line at the grocery store. We lose track of time when we're engaged in them. They give us energy when we are physically tired. Interests are things you enjoy learning about and doing. There are different kinds of interests. Some involve interacting with other people. Some involve working with ideas. Others require working with your hands. Some interests focus on detail-oriented tasks. Many successful entrepreneurs start companies based upon their passions and interests. Now, not everything we are passionate about or interested in is necessarily a great idea for a company. But it's hard to find a successful entrepreneur who is not deeply passionate about what she or he does. Robin Chase and Anja Danielson shared a passion for protecting the environment. Both sought to do what they could to reduce their own carbon footprint. This passion for the environment, in part, motivated them when they developed the first car-sharing company in the United States, Zipcar. The second staple is who you know. If being an entrepreneur means pursuing opportunity even beyond the resources you currently control, then this means you have to mix it up with other people who are willing to help you with your company. Successful entrepreneurs don't try to go it alone. Successful entrepreneurs begin with people they know and pull others into their enterprise who make commitments to their success. These people bring additional resources, what's in their own cupboards, to help make the venture a success. The people around us can play many different roles and help in a variety of ways. Some are advisors, mentors, and teachers. Some are investors. Some roll up their sleeves and work directly with us. Others are close confidants. The people around us open us up to new experiences and opportunities. Sometimes they help us see what's right in front of our own face. They provide encouragement when we need it and keep us motivated. They are a source of energy when we need to keep going. The third staple is what you know. By this, I mean your knowledge, skills, and talents. This comes from all of the experiences you have had up to this point in your life. Everyone, regardless of their specific background or personal history, has a unique set of knowledge, skills, and talents that can be put to use. This might come from a formal education, like a degree or certification that we've received, or it might come from an informal education. Much of what we learn in life comes from outside of the classroom. Many of us have learned our best lessons in the school of hard knocks. Sometimes we have special skills or abilities that have gone unrecognized or unused. These might be just the things that you can use in an entrepreneurial venture. Every successful company begins with an idea. It begins with what we know. In some cases, we need to learn more along the way. Successful entrepreneurs don't let this stand in their way. In fact, many of the founders of Inc. 500 companies have little experience in the industries in which they start their companies. It's the doing that matters. Use what you've got and build from there. Rob Intrican was a successful biomedical engineer in Seattle, Washington, who had an interest in wine. After a visit to several vineyards, he enrolled in an online winemaking class at Washington State University. One thing led to another, and he started a micro winery in his garage. Today, the Finn Hill Winery has moved out of Rob's garage and makes about 350 cases of select red and white wines per year. Rob's initial interest in wine developed into a passion for winemaking. This led to his garage hobby, which became a business. Rob expanded what he knew by enrolling in an online class, and today runs his winery in pursuit of the perfect bottle of wine. The fourth staple is your location. Many successful entrepreneurs start out focused on local or regional markets. Combined with your other ingredients, where you are located may create opportunities to do something that no one else can do. You might be surrounded by an abundance of social, economic, and cultural resources that you can use to start and grow your company. These are often places that bring people together. Alternatively, you might be located in a place with few such resources. In this situation, the tendency is often to see the glass as half empty or worse. But as John Gardner once put it, what we have before us are some breathtaking opportunities disguised as insoluble problems. For you, the opportunity might be wider with less competition than someone in a more resource-rich environment. How can your location combine with your other staple ingredients to create a unique entrepreneurial opportunity? One of my favorite examples of creating entrepreneurial opportunity from your location involves the grilled cheese sandwich. In August 2010, the New York Post ran a story about a guy they called Ronnie, who lived in the East Village of New York City. Ronnie ran an underground grilled cheese sandwich business in New York City since he didn't have a license to sell food. He took advantage of his location in the population-dense area of New York City. Using his father's grilled cheese sandwich recipe, which makes the outside of the sandwich extra crispy, he takes orders by text message and delivers sandwiches on street corners by bike. Ronnie was able to make $200 to $300 a week with a cell phone, bicycle, basic raw materials, and his brother's borrowed oven. While these 4 staple ingredients are important, there's more that separates successful entrepreneurs from the rest. These are the 7 essential spices in your cupboard. First, motivation. Having the willpower to keep moving forward in the face of rejection, criticism, and discouragement. Second, optimism. Having a tough-minded, positive approach that doesn't crumble in the face of obstacles or failure. Third, curiosity. Being reflective and interested in yourself, other people, and the world around you. Fourth, empathy. Caring about other people and understanding their wants and needs. Fifth, confidence. Having an unmistakable belief in yourself, especially when others are skeptical, critical, and resentful. Six, decisiveness. An ability to make decisions when the potential consequences of our choices are unclear or uncertain. And finally, flexibility. The ability to stay open-minded and be willing to change plans and adapt to new circumstances. So the picture I want to paint in everyone's head is that we each have a cupboard full of staple ingredients. They are comprised of who we are, who we know, what we know, and where we are located. In addition, we have the essential spices of motivation, optimism, curiosity, empathy, confidence, decisiveness, and flexibility. The instinct might be to say that entrepreneurs have all of these ingredients in abundance, that they were born with these things, and this would be totally wrong. There is nothing in any of our cupboards that's automatic. One way or another, each of these ingredients were added to our cupboard over the course of our lifetime. It might look different whether we are 20 years old or 60 years old. Our ingredients are not fixed in number or size, but we all have something that we can begin to work with. But like any cupboard, we have to make sure we keep our ingredients fresh. We get into trouble when we let our staples and spices go stale. We have to continuously renew and refresh our ingredients. We do this most directly by investing in ourselves. We have to continue to cultivate our passions and develop our interest. We have to step outside of our comfort zone and try new experiences. We have to be lifelong learners, whether through formal education or our own efforts to add to what we know. We have to connect with other people. We achieve more with the help of other people. This means adding to our network of supportive relationships. And remember, this is a two-way street. When we connect our cupboard with those of others, both are nourished in the process. We benefit from the passions and interests of other people. They help us understand the value of the ingredients in our own cupboards, and we also benefit from having the opportunity to help others. Our ingredients can go dormant or become dried up if they sit unused for too long. Our skills go dull without practice. We forget things we learn from lack of use. Relationships become frayed or fade away if not nurtured. In the best case scenario, these ingredients can be revitalized with time, energy, and attention. But in other cases, too much time has passed. Skills can atrophy to the point of having to start over or abandon them. Interest and passions might need to be replaced with new ones. Sometimes the times have changed so much that it's time to move on, and this is okay too. Once upon a time, long before kitchen chefs were celebrities, people learned to cook without recipes. We learned to cook from our grandmothers and mothers. We watched what they did and imitated them when it was our turn in the kitchen. The recipes in the earliest cookbooks looked nothing like they do now. Instead of providing detailed directions, they were more like guides, calling for a pinch of this or a handful of that. This is how most expert entrepreneurs operate in the kitchen of life. There is no menu that lays out what to prepare, much less a recipe that tells you how to do it. A recipe can be helpful when you are learning your way around the kitchen, but it can become a straitjacket if it stops you from creatively getting in touch with the ingredients in your cupboard. A recipe can be like a GPS device in your car. A couple of years ago, I heard a story on the radio about someone who drove their car into the river following the directions of the GPS device in their car. If you want to see how common this is, try Googling GPS drive into water. When you follow a recipe, you combine ingredients in a prescribed order in a certain way. If the result is a success, you are no wiser than if it failed. Like the GPS, you simply follow what you're told to do. But what happens if you find yourself headed to the river? When you learn to cook, when you learn to really cook, you focus on the fundamentals, flavor profiles, food textures, cooking techniques. You understand the ingredients and the purpose of each step as you chop, mix, and stir. If you need to replace an ingredient with something else, you have the skill and knowledge about how to do so. Someone once said that good cooking is 50% technique, 40% inspiration, and 10% ingredients. Think about what this means. As important as the ingredients in your cupboard may be, more important is what you do with them. It also means you don't have to start with all of them at the same time. At minimum, I suggest you start with 2, who you are and who you know, and build from there. And don't forget about your spices. These can make all the difference in the world between success and failure. Motivation, optimism, curiosity, empathy, confidence, decisiveness, and flexibility. These will help us overcome life's challenges and deal with the skepticism, criticism, and rejection that often threaten to get in our way. We have got to work on these to make sure they are there when we need them to be. To wrap up, I want to leave you with a few key ideas. First, practice makes perfect. It's the doing that matters. Invest the time to expose yourself to new ideas. Develop current and new interests and cultivate your passions. Practice can't be rushed. Good cooking takes time. Second, learn from others. Imitation is the oldest form of learning. Now that you have this framework in mind, watch how others improvise with ingredients in their cupboards. Read articles and biographies from successful entrepreneurs. Find people you admire and learn from them. Third, try different things and be willing to make mistakes. Get out of your comfort zone. Open yourself to new experiences. There's no guarantee that everything you try will work out, but there is a 100% guarantee that nothing will happen at all if you don't make any effort. Fourth, seek opportunity by identifying problems you can solve. Last year, I heard Jim McKelvey, one of the founders of Square, give a talk here at the Kauffman Foundation. He said entrepreneurial opportunities were everywhere, but he couldn't see them. Problems waiting to be solved are also everywhere, and these are easier to identify. Not every problem is a great entrepreneurial opportunity, but many entrepreneurial opportunities began with a problem that someone was trying to solve for themselves and others. Finally, take advantage of the special opportunity and responsibility that you have as an entrepreneur to make meaning. This doesn't necessarily mean you have to go out and start the next internet company. Most of the entrepreneurial opportunities are very local and much smaller, but they can make a big difference to the people you serve. Anyone who has ever had a plumbing problem or a car that won't start knows exactly what I mean. These are opportunities to make meaning by delivering service and customer care in a way that no one else can match. As Guy Kawasaki says, if you make meaning, you will probably make money. If you only want to make money, you will not make meaning, and you will probably not make money either. Thanks for listening today, and I will be happy to answer a few questions.
Munro, thank you so very much. For those of you listening in, if you'd like to ask a question, you may enter it into your webinar application. I believe you can also raise your hand, and I can unmute you for this portion of the discussion. While we're waiting to see if we have questions, Munro, can you tell me a little bit about, is there anybody in your life, a mentor, somebody who you've looked up to, who's helped you to identify and articulate your own passions?
So that's a great question. I think there have been many people along the way that have helped me. I think about, obviously, lots of great teachers that helped along the way, and in some ways it's like peeling an onion. And so all of us have all of these different layers, and really great teachers and mentors help you to unpeel different layers of the onion and help you to find things within yourself that you didn't know was there. And for any of us that have ever had this experience of having a mentor or an advisor that saw something in us that we didn't see in ourselves, those are the kinds of people that really bring out the best that's in us. And I've been very, very fortunate to have lots of great teachers over the course of my life that saw more in me than I saw in myself. There was one in particular, professor when I was an undergraduate at the University of Kansas, Michael Young, who really saw more in me than I did as a young kid, and was really instrumental in pushing me to really try to achieve more after I finished at University of Kansas. I probably would have just went to find a job someplace, and I think it was Michael Young that really pushed me to try to make a difference and to see how it is that I could not only make a living, but to make meaning by finding ways to help other people in their lives. And interestingly, found myself for much of my career really focused on helping people, whether it's in thinking about how do you start companies that, or be involved with companies that are helping people somehow, or working at a foundation or working in a government that in some way is trying to help make the world a better place.
That's great. Your point about really surrounding yourself with other people, and as I always say, entrepreneurs should never go it alone. I think that really resonates in terms of the kinds of people to surround yourself with. So I love the notion of professors or others who have been there before. How does one go about identifying who those other people should be?
It's a great question. So I think that one of the ways that you can tell whether someone is the right person to help you is how you feel when you're around them, right? How do they make you feel? And people that make you feel like you're more competent and capable, right? That you've got something special about yourself, that you've got something to give. Those are the kinds of people that help make you help you realize what your potential is. I often think about I categorize people into two broad categories, and the kind that you want as mentors are the ones that make other people around them better, right? They're not so self-absorbed. that it's about them. They're interested in how can I make other people better, and those are the best people to have around for yourself. But there's another category of people that you have to watch out for, and I think this is really important for entrepreneurs, and especially entrepreneurs in the early stages of their ventures. And these are what I call dream killers. And there's this book that I read during the course of doing research on here. I think it was called Emotional Vampires, where they literally like suck the lifeblood out of you, right? And you have to watch out for those people. And I think it's so incredibly important for entrepreneurs or anybody who has an idea or a dream in the earliest phases. Like, that's when your dream or your idea is the most fragile, and that's when it's easily killed by someone, right? And so you have to be so careful about how you share those ideas and who you share them with, because it's just incredibly easy for someone to kill it. And it can happen either directly, where they're skeptical or they scoff at your idea, or even indirectly, where they're not supportive, or they're maybe healthfully skeptical, but your dream or your idea is so fragile that it doesn't take much to kill it. And so that's where it's really important to have people that, one, that will tell you the truth, I think, but will be incredibly supportive of you as you're trying to start a venture. The other thing, too, and talk a little bit about this in the book, is that there are a variety of people. So some people are directly involved with you in the venture. Some people are just there to give you encouragement, support. Some people are there to give you advice. There's another category of people that you will never meet, and these are people that you read about in the biographies, right? So, if you read, a biography of Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs can help you just as much, from reading a bio about him, or Benjamin Franklin, or Warren Buffett, just as much as someone who you know personally, who's still alive. It's even possible for a fictional character in a favorite novel or in a movie to be encouraging to you. We can find advice and support from people in a variety of ways. I think the important thing is that if you go off in a corner and you try to figure this out by yourself, you're probably not going to be successful. It takes the help of other people, because we all have blind spots, and we need other people to help us see what's right in front of our nose. Our ideas get better when we bounce them around with other people. That said, it's really important to make sure that we've got the right people, because, again, at the early stages of any venture, any idea you have, your ideas are so fragile that I think it's important to be careful who you share them with before you put it out there, because it's just really easy for people to kill them. And the challenge is that there are these kind of two mindsets, right? There's a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And successful entrepreneurs have growth mindsets, but there are lots of people with fixed mindsets that don't see the potential for growth for themselves. And for any successful venture that you look at, the reality is that there were probably at least a dozen people who had that same idea, right? And there was a small minority that actually did something about it. And if you were to look at all of those people and line them up, I'm certain that the ones that actually went for it were the ones with a growth mindset. The ones that didn't go for it were the ones with a fixed mindset, and probably had people around them that told them, you can't do it. Who are you to think you can execute on that? And the ones that were successful had growth mindsets and probably had the right kind of people around them that said, yeah, go for it. How can I help you?
Such a good point. And I like the notion that you're suggesting, where entrepreneurs in particular, must open themselves up to finding the right mentors and advisors, and really just a support network. So that makes great sense. We do have a question from one of our listeners, and as a reminder to those of you who are listening in, please feel free, if you have a question, to go ahead and enter it, and we'll share that with Munro Richardson today. The question is, do you have specific pointers for authors who are entrepreneurial? So really, from your own experience, what have you discovered in terms of getting your message out there, and how do you continue to be entrepreneurial as an author?
Wow, that's a great question. I have to say, honestly, I can't think of a better time to be someone who loves to write and has an entrepreneurial orientation than right now. First of all, I would say the technological innovations that have occurred over the last 5 years alone, with platforms like Amazon.com that make distribution to an audience much more easy than it ever was before. The advent of on-demand publishing and the ability to really leapfrog over publishers that really were, kind of the gatekeepers for who could write a book. And the advent of technology, things like the Kindle and the Nook, the iPad makes it easier to get, your work in front of an audience. And then tools like Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and other forms of social media that allow you to find an audience. It costs virtually nothing to set up a blog or a website these days. What it really costs is your creativity and ingenuity. And what's interesting when you spend time looking at blogs and websites and people that have been able to be successful, there really does seem to be a pattern, and it really is about finding kind of a unique voice that you have and perspective on the world. And what's interesting in particular with the internet, the audience is so big that you can find a niche of people that are interested in what it is that you have to say. And actually, if you're successful at it, I think you can make a living and make meaning by doing whatever it is that you want to do. I always find it compelling when you read about people that have been rejected by publishing houses, and then they're able to find that audience online through electronic publishing and Amazon, Barnes and Noble online as well. And so I think that it is more open than it ever has been before. The caution I would offer, though, is along with the expanded opportunities, I think authors have to be incredibly wary, because you've also seen the proliferation of a lot of companies that are looking to take advantage of authors. And writing a book is an emotional experience, and oftentimes, in the past, it was all about getting published. Now, today, I think it's not so much about just getting published. It's about being able to find your audience. But there are lots of companies that have sprung up to help you get published, and you have to look carefully, because you can spend as much money as you want in getting a book published, but that won't necessarily lead to getting to the audience that you want to find for your book. And so I think it's a double-edged sword. I mean, the opportunities are broader and easier than ever to write a book and to get it out there and to really express your message the way you want to at a lower cost than it's ever been. At the same time, there are more landmines. And so I think an author has to really do his or her homework to make sure that whoever they're working with really are working in their best interest, as opposed to trying to take advantage of them.
Great advice. So appreciate it. Munro, it's been so wonderful to have you as part of the Kauffman FastTrac Author Series. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
For those of you who joined in today, thank you so much. I hope that you've enjoyed today's presentation. This recording will be available in the next week or so on fasttrac.org, our website. We will also be making an announcement soon for our August author, and hope that you'll tune in for that. Everybody have a great day.